Hi, I decided this weekend I'm going to be making at least three different videos based off a discussion I've been having with some atheists on YouTube in regards to one video in particular. And the first topic I want to just talk about right now, of the three, is one that an atheist put a question to me that I think was actually a very good question. It's something that needs to be explained. But he asked me, "How do you know that God is good? How do you know that he's the good one?" And in the rest of his response, he actually presented me with this dilemma that in Plato's dialogue, Euthyphro, I think is how you'd pronounce that. I'm not sure. It says Euthyphro, in which Socrates and Euthyphro have this discussion, and the question put is the pious loved by the gods because it is pious, or is it pious because it is loved by the gods? And in relation to just the nature of good, another way that this was put is what is morally good commanded by God because it's morally good, or is it morally good because it's commanded by God? And that actually speaks to really what the nature of good is. And the person that I'm responding to, I sent him a message and just said before I made this video that there was a problem with the reasoning of the dilemma, and it's simply this: that it's in its the dilemma's understanding of the nature of good. When you think about what good really is, if it's good to help people today, to feed the hungry or to help poor people, it's not just good today. It was good yesterday. It's going to be good tomorrow. It's a constant, everlasting trait if good exists. It's not something that sways with time. If good exists, it's always there. It's constant. It doesn't change. So the very source of that constant, eternal theme has to also be constant and eternal. God is the only one that actually fits that description. So God has to be the source of good. The question that's put is making the assumption that good can actually come from men. And that's just simply not true, because this everlasting trait that is constant, how could that be defined by human beings who by their very nature are finite and imperfect? How can a finite and imperfect being create this everlasting trait of good? Because good can't change. If it changes, then what does it really even mean? The fact that it comes from God and has to be this not just everlasting and constant, but it has to be perfect to even exist. Because if there are flaws in it, you can find flaws in, if you can find flaws in the very nature of it. I mean, what does good really mean? So if it does exist, if good is even something we should be discussing, it has to be perfect. So the entity that created it also has to have that perfection. And in that perfection, that entity can't violate that standard of good, because then he would be imperfect, and then good itself would be imperfect. Um, the like if just kind of repeating it, what I've said, the dilemma doesn't make any sense, because it's saying what is morally good, not what I think may be morally good. They're making an absolute statement about what good really is. And in that statement, they're assuming that it is this constant, but we're not the source of it, so we don't even have the reasoning to even bring up the question, because good is an everlasting trait and can't come from a finite, imperfect being. So the question itself doesn't even have any value without God, because you can't define good, a perfect, everlasting trait, without the creator behind it, of that entity of good, if he wasn't perfect and everlasting himself. So God can't violate that standard, because he would no longer be himself, and good wouldn't even exist in the first place. So that's how I'd answer it. And I mean, yeah, it is a good question that people have pondered for a long time, but if you just look at it, it's really not that hard to answer, I don't think. So that's what I'd say, and feel free to comment if you have anything else to add to that. Thanks.